Hi, you're listening to the Coffee O'Clock podcast, the show that brings you joy and inspiration, with special guests from all around the world who have an amazing story and expertise to evolve your personal and professional life. I am your host, Burcu Onaranel, the founder of Joy Marketing and Coaching. Make sure you grab your coffee and get ready to explore new ideas. Let's get started. Hello everyone, Coffee O'Clock. Chris Ducker is with me today. If you don't know him, you're missing out. Chris Ducker, cheers Chris. He is a keynote speaker, best-selling author, and business coach who helps industry leaders, entrepreneurs, and business experts to grow their influence, income, and impact without burning out in the process, which is very, very important as entrepreneurs. So I just finished one of his books, YOUpreneur. I highly recommend, and I'm about to start The Long Haul Leader. And before we dive into anything, I just want to welcome Chris. Welcome. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. It's nice to be here.
Thank you for making the time. I am so excited to interview you. It's always so much joy to me to interview one of my role models who feel like we are on the same page. I was thinking years ago when I was talking with my clients or try to pitch my clients, like, you are your brand. You need to make sure you're energetically, you need to be well, and then you serve. But I didn't come across to those people who really understand the value of it. And when I was reading YOUpreneur and you were talking about it in a very deeply and very strategically, I was so happy that, oh my God, this is a proven thing. And he is talking. So before about the book and everything, everybody has a story, and I know you do too. And I'm very curious to ask you about it. Before Chris Ducker became Chris Ducker, who were you and how did you become an entrepreneur, YOUpreneur, and started to lead other entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I mean, I never went to university. So I went straight out of, college, or, I guess we call it high school nowadays, although I added a couple of years, a little bit of additional education, but ultimately never went to university, went straight into a sales and marketing job, and at the age of 17. And I'm still a sales and marketing guy now. Like, I'm well aware of the fact of who I am, what I do, what I can't do, I think is super important as well. Having that self-awareness of where your limitations lie. And so for me, it became pretty apparent to me pretty early on that I don't think I was going to be like in a corporate job, like a corporate role forever. Even as early as my mid-20s, I was already, engaging in what I would class as entrepreneurial activities. And, in America, they have things like yard sales and garage sales. Here in the UK, we have car boot sales, and what I would do is I would take my kind of car boot sale. And by the way, for anybody tuning in doesn't know what it is, it's usually on a Sunday morning. You would put a load of junk in your house into the back of your car, and you would go to a big open playing field or whatever, car park or whatever it was, and you would sell the stuff out of the back of your car. And there would be hundreds and hundreds of people there, and they would, they'd all just try and get rid of their junk, basically, right? However, I took it to another level. I started off doing that, but then I started going around the other cars and buying all and haggling and negotiating with people to get the prices lower. And so I would buy other people's junk and resell the junk at a profit, right? So I knew the importance of, like, buying as low as possible and selling as high as possible to make the most profit in the middle. And so I think pretty early on, it was pretty clear to me that I was going to be an entrepreneur. It wasn't until my late 20s that I set up my first company. I've not looked back. We've had 4 businesses since then. Two of them I have sold and exited from entirely. One of them was a complete failure. And there's another one that still exists today, which is over at youpreneur.com, which is a company where we focus on working with business authors very specifically to help them monetize their expertise and to serve as many people as possible, right? And so, yeah, I think from a pretty early age, it was pretty clear that I was going to be a bad employee, and I was definitely going to be doing things for myself at some point, for sure.
I love how you experienced it in a very hard way. I think sales is a very, very hard thing to learn as an entrepreneur, mostly because most of the entrepreneurs I work with, and I get to that trap so many times because we feel we are selling ourselves and we think we worth more, and it's just very hard to not seek freedom without getting burnt out. So I love that how you talk about in your book, it's about you really being a whole, authentic, and energetically wise. And then you don't have to have the cost of identity, freedom, joy. I want you to talk about it a little bit more because people
Yeah.
struggle with understanding it.
Well, I think the big thing to, I guess the big thing to validate here is the idea that actually sales is hard. You're absolutely right. Selling in general is a hard skill set to learn, right? But selling yourself, if you're building a brand for yourself and your personal brand is the center of the marketing part of your business, actually selling becomes a lot easier because people are already bought in to you as a person, to your ideas, to your opinions, and so on and so on, right? The thing is, though, that not everybody wants to be front and center for their business, right? They want to kind of stay in the sidelines, or they want to hide behind the brand name or whatever it is. And it's absolutely fine. Like I don't look down on anybody that doesn't want to build a personal brand. I know plenty of people that have built incredibly successful businesses based around a logo or a brand name, right? But what I do know is that as a personal brand entrepreneur myself, at this point in my career, that is my marketing machine. It's me. And I know that when I put an offer together for my audience and for my customers, they are more likely to buy because of the relationship that I built with them, right? Compared to if I was coming at them, relatively cold with an idea and trying to sell them on that, it would be a little bit more of a complex, sale to make, right? But the freedom side of things, I think, is really interesting because, a lot of entrepreneurs, they start their businesses because they want freedom. They don't want to have to work a 9-to-5 job and to have a boss and all that kind of stuff. But then what happens is they realize pretty much straight away that when it's on their shoulders, it's all on their shoulders. Like when they're the entrepreneur, when they're the guy or the girl, running the business, it's all on their shoulders. So what happens is the freedom goes out the window. It disappears because now you're working 12, 13, 14, 15-hour days to hustle and to like make money and all that kind of stuff, right? So I think pretty early on in every entrepreneur's journey, they'll realize that there is a very fine line between real freedom and then the freedom that we kind of think we're going to have when we start our first business. And that's where hustle comes into it. And hustle itself is not necessarily a bad thing. Like I've had periods of hustle where I've had to put my foot down on the gas or pull back on the throttle, whatever analogy you want to use. Like plenty of times I've had to do that. But I've become hyper aware, acutely aware of the fact that hustle should be in place for a short period of time or for a season and not forever, right? Hustle is a season. It's not a lifestyle. That's the title of the opening chapter of The Long Haul Leader for a very, very good reason. And that is because it's not sustainable. So you can put your foot down on the gas and hustle for a certain period of time, but eventually you got to pull back and you need to recalibrate and recharge, and then you can go again, right? But so many entrepreneurs, unfortunately, don't do that. And what happens? They end up burning out.
Yes. And I am sure, and I want you to talk about this if it is true, for somebody who has written this kind of books and really successful as you are, have burnt out and really get into the darkness at some period of their life. Did you have those moments, and how did you pivot or found your way around it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, the latest book, The Long Haul Leader, came about because I burned out very, very, very badly in 2021. But it wasn't my first experience with burnout. My first experience with burnout was actually at the end of 2009 was my first burnout. And I'd been building our business for a few years. I think we had about 150 employees at the time. We had just celebrated our first $1 million year.
Wow.
And, you know, everything on the outside was looking really, really, really good. But on the inside, Chris was exhausted. Chris needed a break, right? And so that's exactly what I did. I took a break. I took an extended holiday with my wife. We were away for about 6 weeks or so. And then when I came back, I was fully refreshed. I wasn't exhausted anymore. And I kind of just recovered from burnout that way the first time round. The second time, though, in 2021, that was the bad one. That was, you know, I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression. And I was actually diagnosed as phase 3 adrenal failure. So to explain what that means, your adrenal glands, they sit just behind your kidneys. And they're tiny little glands, you know, like the size of a large peanut M&M. They're very, very small glands. You've got 2 of them. And their sole purpose in your body is to create cortisol. That's it. And cortisol is our stress hormone. It's what enables us to be able to handle stress. So whenever we get stressed out, our cortisol levels are used and they spike, and then they drop back down again after we've not been stressed anymore. The problem, though, was that I was consistently stressed for a period of time. And what happened was my adrenals stopped working. They stopped creating cortisol entirely, and I was completely flatlined, which meant in regular people's terms, I had no energy. I couldn't handle stress. You know, by 11 a.m. in the morning after working for just 2 hours, I would be finished. Like I had nothing left. And so some quite big changes needed to take place in the way that I was managing my energy, the way that I was leading my businesses and leading my team, and also serving my clients, obviously. And the really funny thing is that at the time, business was going great. Like we were crushing it. We were doing probably upwards of $150,000 a month in revenue. And again, from the outside looking in, everything was great. But from the inside looking out, it wasn't so great. But here's the really important thing. Not only were we making a load of money, but I was actually genuinely enjoying the business. It wasn't like I hated what I was doing. I was just doing way, way, way too much of it. And so I had to take a step back, took some time away. It took about 6 months off the business entirely.
Wow, this time 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is where the importance of a good team and good processes and systems come into place, because not only was I able to be able to step away from the business for that prolonged period of time, but we did not lose any money. We carried on making money. We carried on serving our customers. And so that shows you the importance of having good systems in place. But then as I was recovering, that was when I said, like, I can't be the only one that's feeling like this right now. Remember where we were in 2021. Everybody was dealing with the pandemic. Nobody was really happy. We were all a little bit down and depressed about the fact that we couldn't see our friends and family and all the rest of it. And so I started reaching out to some of my friends and I said, how are you feeling? How's business? Blah, blah, blah. And I realized actually I wasn't on my own. A lot of people were feeling the same way, which is why I wrote the book.
I love it. I can't wait to read it. And thank you for sharing genuinely, authentically, the real.
I mean,
the
it's
real
it's all
version.
in fact, there's a lot more ugliness in the book. So if you get stuck into the book, you'll you get all the ugly stuff about blood tests and everything else that I went through. Don't worry.
Well, I'm very glad that you go through that and now you're fully healthy and
Oh yeah.
energetic.
Yeah.
And what would you tell people who are listening or watching us right now, entrepreneurs who are in the burnout or getting really close to it? What would you tell them to do today?
Well, I mean, obviously, depending on where they are on their journey, depends on how they manage their burnout,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know, if
Mm-hmm.
you're very, very early on in your journey and maybe it's just you and you're building your business on your own, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you have to understand that, yes, you need to pull back, you need to take time away. But if you do that for too long, then you come to a screeching halt and everything stops because it's just you, right? And then trying to
Mm-hmm.
build that momentum up again is a lot harder, you know, when you come back to work. So, you know, if you're more positioned to be able to take time away from the work, if you've got a small team around you, then, you know, you can delegate more tasks and make that time away more productive for you and everybody, right? And less
Mm-hmm.
stressful, really. But generally, like if you feel exhausted, if you feel mentally exhausted as well as emotionally exhausted, if you lack the motivation to put the time and the energy and the effort into the work that you're doing day in, day out, yeah, the chances are you're probably burnt out. And I would strongly suggest that you go and visit your doctor and that you get your blood work done so you can see where
Mm-hmm.
deficiencies are. I was deficient in so much, and I was eating, you know, everything from things like drinking too much coffee or not exercising at the right times. You know, if you exercise at the wrong time of the day and you're
Yeah,
burned
that's
out, it can actually make it worse, not better, right? I was snacking on sugary foods way too much because I wanted that boost in energy for 30 minutes after eating a chocolate bar
Mhm. And
or
then you're
something, right?
down.
Right. And then you crash, right? So, you know, I sincerely suggest you go to your doctor, you get your blood work done, you see where you're deficient, you see where you've got, you know, heightened numbers and things like that. And you start from the inside out. That's the way you heal from burnout properly.
Yes, absolutely. It's very important.
And by the way,
And
you know, here we are now, you know, almost 5 years post being
yes.
diagnosed. Yes, I'm healthy again and all the rest of it, but I want to say I'm never going to burn out again. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason why I know is because every 90 days I have a clinician come to my house
Ah, nice.
and draw my blood and take it to the lab. And then for the next 90 days, we adjust my supplements and my food intake and everything else. So I'm optimizing for absolute energy at all
Great.
times. That's very important.
Very important.
Yeah.
And may I ask, how old are you, Chris?
I'm going to be 53 in a couple of months from now.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And
And some
what do you
some
think?
days I feel 53, some days I feel 43, you know. So today is a
Or
43 day.
33.
It's good. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, maybe we are at the same age today. It would work too.
We are.
32, maybe. More down. What do you think people misunderstand most about building an authentic personal brand today?
I think the problem here's what it is. The entry barrier to build a personal brand has never been any lower.
Mm.
If you think about it, right?
Yes.
You want to build a personal brand, start an Instagram account, start a YouTube channel, start a
Mhm.
podcast, right? Start blogging if you want, you know, whatever it is, right?
Yes.
So the entry level has never been any lower. this is good because it makes it easy to get started, but it's also really
But
bad
yes.
because it means that so many people are doing it. The difference between people who do incredibly well with their personal brand compared to those people who don't really truly make the most of it is usually down to one thing and one thing only, and that is consistency. That's it.
It's true.
Are you consistently showing up every single day? Right. And I mean, literally every single day, not every week, but every single day. You consistently putting out value in one way or another. Right. And by the way, like, you don't need to have a YouTube channel. You don't need to have a podcast, but I mean, you've got to put yourself out there somehow, right? I know somebody, a client of mine, who built her personal brand almost exclusively on LinkedIn. She never did any videos. She never did any podcasts. All she did was provide value every morning on LinkedIn, not by posting on her own profile, but by commenting on other people's profiles. Every morning she would spend like an hour and a half every single day commenting on other people's posts. And then she would post something on her profile before she walked away for her lunch. And then when she comes back from lunch, all those people that had seen all her comments in the morning have now seen her post. And now she can reply to them directly. And that's how she built her personal brand. She did that for about 2 years straight. And now she's got like 100,000 plus followers on LinkedIn. And anytime she puts an event together or launches an offer, she'll sell out because she's got so many people following her because she showed up consistently every day. So consistency is key. That's the big one.
I agree. And you talk a lot of how you can turn one content into so many other platforms. You can put it in so many other directions. And I apply it in my own business too. But I'm curious, are you still repurposing the same content for so many channels, or do you have just one or two platforms that are your go-tos and you show up there every day consistently?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when I started building my personal brand online in like 2008, makes me feel old saying that.
Now we're back to 53.
Yeah, right. 2008, it was blogging. It was, a little bit of YouTube, but not much. I think Twitter, I kind of got started on Twitter in like 2009 or something. But then it wasn't really until 2010 I started taking it more seriously. I was building an email list. I started podcasting 2010, so a long time ago, 16 years ago. And at that point, 2010 to like 2014, 15, those 5 years or so, there was this be everywhere mentality / strategy from people. And you would watch people like, Gary Vaynerchuk, some of the other really big social media guys that were out there at the time. And, they would just be all day long. They would be posting content, right? And the whole concept of being everywhere was a big thing. Like, you had to be on YouTube, you had to be doing a podcast, you had to be doing podcast interview, you had to be on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and everywhere else, right? I bought into that too at that time. But I can tell you right now, as time has gone by, I've spent less and less time on pretty much all of those platforms. When it comes to social media, the two platforms that I spend the most time on are Instagram and LinkedIn. I don't bother with Facebook at all anymore, like zero. Spend no time on it at all. In fact, I don't even have it. I don't even have it on my phone anymore. Like, it's gone, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, when it comes to like content creation, there's really only two ways that you can create content nowadays that will work. The first one is video, and the second one is audio. And what has changed with video is that everything has gone short form, right? Like, everybody's about these reels and shorts and things like that. That's not my style. Like, I do create that type of content, but it's not really something that I enjoy that much because I want to go deeper with my content. And so I actually prefer audio podcasts. That's my number one way of being able to create content that is long form, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour long. If I want to deep dive on a subject and go for 45 minutes, I can do it very easily with audio. I don't need to worry about my backdrop or lighting. I just need to get in front of the microphone. I don't have to do my hair or my makeup it wouldn't take me long to do my hair, that's for sure. But what I'm getting at is whatever is creating the less amount of friction for you, do that, because you're more likely to show up consistently on a regular basis with less friction, right? And don't feel like just because there's 2 or 3 other people in your niche that are doing great YouTube videos, that you have to do that too. No, you don't. You can go off and do something completely different. There's a marketing, mentality or strategy that when everybody else is zigging, you have to zag.
You have
right?
to.
So you go in the other direction entirely, and it's not a bad strategy. It's a pretty good strategy in terms of standing out.
Thank you. And I really want to spend a little bit more time on your new program and what you talk about the books, how a book for entrepreneur is a best spend $20. That's what you say. I don't know if it's the right way to say it. That's how you say it. I want you to talk a little bit on that. And I know you have an authority program coming, which I'm on wait list for it. So I'm curious to hear, and my audience too.
Yeah. So, over the last 11 years with YOUpreneur, we've worked with thousands of personal brand entrepreneurs. And last year, we decided that we wanted to niche down a little bit. When we've always been, we work with personal brand entrepreneurs. So we've always worked with coaches, consultants, authors, speakers, anybody really building a business around them and their expertise. And that's great. Don't get me wrong, but it's a little broad in today's world. And so it worked when we started 11 years ago. Heck, it even worked, 2-3 years ago as well. But I wanted to niche down a little bit. And so what we did is we looked through our database records at everybody that had ever bought anything from us at all. So these are not people on our email list. No, these are paying customers. Very important. And whether they're buying, a $30, PDF guide or a course or one of our coaching programs or coming to one of our live events or whatever it was, they had to be a paid customer, right? And what we noticed when we were done with our survey of that data, we realized that 76% of the people that had ever bought anything from us at all had a book. And I just said, that's it. That's the niche. If 76% of our paying customers over the last 11 years have written a business book or our book to help them build their business, then that's our target demographic moving forward. And so about a year ago, we made the change to work exclusively with business authors. And we've been doing that with helping them with their book launching and the marketing of their books and things like that through paid services and all that sort of stuff. But going into 2026, I started to get the itch again, the itch that I needed to start scratching in regards to community. Because when we started YOUpreneur in 2015, it was a community. It was an online community of personal brand entrepreneurs. But as time has gone by, things changed, but I'm missing community now. And I think that people within our industry, yourself included, are missing community as well, right? And we've had our wait list up and running for about 2 weeks now, and we've got hundreds of people on that wait list already. And there must be a reason for that. And that is because people want community. They want to be around other people that are on a similar journey. And so this is exclusively for business authors or those that want to become a business author and ultimately write a book to help them build and scale their business. And so it's not just about how do I write a book or how do I launch a book or how do I market a book. No, that stuff's included, of course, because it's foundational, it's important. but it's also about how do I monetize the
Yeah.
asset that is the book? How do I get more higher paying speaking and gigs? How do I sell more of my digital courses? How do I sell the spaces for my high level mastermind or coaching program easily? And so on and so on and so on. And so that's what we're focusing on with the Authority Collective. It's going to be a very, very focused group of business authors that want to really double down on monetizing their expertise sustainably, not just having 1 or 2 good months each year, but having month after month after month after month, all year round, having the absolute best opportunity to be as sustainable financially as possible.
If I didn't miss, is it for people who already have a book, or you can write the book through the process too? Because I think it's more
Both.
of create both. Okay. Because
Both.
it's
Yeah.
more of creating the authority
It's
around it.
yeah,
Okay.
it's highly likely that we will lean more towards people who have already got their
Yes.
book, right? Just because you need the book. You need the book in order to do all the rest of the things. And so it's highly likely that we'll lean more towards that individual. But if you're in the middle of writing a book and you're going to publish that book in the next 6 to 12 months, then there'll be just as much good stuff inside there to help you do that as well. Because actually, a really good book launch doesn't start when you launch the book. It starts when you're still writing the book, believe it or
That's
not.
true. That's true.
Right. And then, the ability to be able to use that book day in, day out, month in, month out throughout the course of a period of 3 or 4 years, which is the usual period for a good business book, is 3-4 years before the author starts thinking about writing the next book, right? So what happens is that there's a lot of moving parts in marketing that book in the right way and using it, like you said, as the $20 business card that it is, right? That's what it is. Before, when you used to go to networking events, you'd give out your business card to everybody. Here, call me, stay in contact, let's do lunch. Da, 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 da. It's gone. Days are finished now. They're gone. Now people go to those with a box of books and they say, hey, this is my book. I'd love you to have a copy. Oh, you want me to sign it? Sure, I'll sign it. That connection that we've got now is so much deeper, so much stronger. And so I genuinely do believe that a book can be the biggest game changer in any personal brand entrepreneur's arsenal when it comes to building their business. But it is not the finish line. It is actually the starting line. You start building the business once the book is available. It shouldn't be, kind of, oh, my book is published. Yay, let's celebrate, and then forget all about it. So many people do that, and they're leaving a lot of money on the table by doing it. So it's my kind of personal mission to help people utilize it as the asset that it is, and obviously not burn out in the process,
Yes, yes. I love it. I can't wait for the program. And a very important question about the books. I know so many entrepreneurs have their own personal story that they are turning it into a book. And most of the time it has nothing to do what they do in business. Do you think it is a very, I don't know how to ask it. Like, does it have to be aligned what you do, your book? Does it need to be related to, for example, personal branding, or does it have to be spiritual book, but you have a personal branding business?
Well, I think, for a nonfiction book to be successful for you as the author, my opinion is that book will help you grow your business. It's not a matter of just publishing the book and making a couple of bucks here and there whenever you sell a copy. So generally speaking, the background story of you and what you bring to the table should be part of the narrative of the business, right? So for example, when I wrote Rise of the YOUpreneur in 2018, I had already been building my personal brand for 10 years prior to that book being published.
Yes.
So I could talk about that in the book, and it allowed people to see, oh, this guy is not just coming at this with like his opinions, like this is facts.
Real.
Like he's got genuine stories to tell and case studies to share, right? They could
Yeah.
see that. They could buy into the idea of, oh, I need to build a personal brand. Like this is a guarantee, you know, this is a qualified business model. Whereas with the long haul leader, it wasn't really about building a business. It was actually about sustaining your career in business, whether you are an entrepreneur or a CEO or a CFO or a OO. It doesn't matter what position you hold. It's about going the distance in the business and also in life. So for that to work, I needed to tell my story of burnout and recovery in the first part of the book, and then share all the lessons that I had learned and the practices that I had put in place. But even that is not enough in that situation. I also have to bring in outside case studies, outside stories that are checkable and, they can be validified, right? And so things like Simone Biles, the US gymnast, she had a mental breakdown and burnt out mentally. She took 2 years away from gymnastics, had a 2-year sabbatical. So what do I do when I'm talking about sabbatical in the book? I'll bring the story of Simone in so that people can understand the importance of taking time away. And when she came back to the Olympics, she won, I think it was like 4 gold medals in 1 year or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head now. But what I'm getting at is it does need to be relatable in order for the book to really do its job properly. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Because so many people stop creating because their soul wants to create something else in the book,
Yeah.
but it's not related to their business, so they feel like it was the point. So it needs to work on.
Yeah, and the other thing is that once you've written the book, all of the hard work in terms of content has been done. Because I know people that are still resharing content, rewriting content, reworking frameworks from their books 2-3 years after the book comes out. So they're not having to reinvent the wheel. They're not coming up with new ideas all the time. They're just using what's in the book because it always brings people back to what it is they can do for them and what they can sell to them, right?
Yes, absolutely. And other people talk about their books too. I think that's one of the beautiful feeling. I don't know how you feel when people from all around the world buy your books and share it on Instagram. I want to feel that way. It's amazing feeling.
It feels great. Just yesterday, I got an email from somebody who had got on the wait list for the collective. And she emailed me and she said, I'm really looking forward to learning from you in regards to how I can monetize the book better. And just so you know, I bought 11 copies of The Long Haul Leader for my coaching group that I coach, and I gifted them all a copy. So that was just literally yesterday. That came yesterday, right? So it never fades away. It never gets boring. When I'm at conferences, I'm often approached and somebody's holding my book and, will you sign it for me? Of course I'm going to sign it. Like I live to sign my books, right? Like that's the whole thing of being an author. So yeah, if anybody ever tells you that they don't enjoy signing their own books or hearing stories from people who buy their books, I would say that person probably shouldn't have written in the book in the first place. That's what keeps us going as authors. Very important. Amazon reviews as well. Very important. I read every single one of them. I'll tell you right now. Even the bad ones.
Of course. Those are important too. And as you mentioned about your long haul leader event, I know you had it a couple months ago. Do you plan to have another one?
Yeah, we do. I don't know in what format we will do it. There's actually been quite a lot of interest from our community saying that they would actually prefer, because it's quite a large event. So they're saying they actually like the idea of maybe doing something a little bit more intimate and more for longer periods. So we're looking at the idea maybe of doing, like a 3 or 4 day retreat somewhere, and we all fly to, I don't know, Barcelona or, wherever, and all hang out with each other and kind of spend time with each other in that way. But yeah, I feel like we'll do it again. Probably not this year. because we are very focused on the collective right now with
Mhm.
YOUpreneur. But I think 2027 will probably do something again. Yeah.
Well, we look forward to hearing that. And lastly, I always ask my guests to leave the audience with one sentence. What would be your sentence, Chris?
Mm, gosh, that's a good question. I think I will share something that my mentor once said to me.
Mm.
And I've been very lucky to have him as a friend, as a mentor for well over 10 years now. His name is Michael Hyatt. He wrote the foreword for The Long Haul Leader. And I remember we were at lunch with each other, maybe in 2012, 13, something like that. And he said, if it doesn't get scheduled, it doesn't get done. And I've never forgot that. And so still to this day now, if something is a priority for me, if I really want to make sure that I do something, it goes on my schedule. It gets scheduled. And if it's on the schedule, it's going to get done. It's really that simple. So yeah, if it doesn't get scheduled, it doesn't get done.
Very true. Very true. Thank you. Thank you so much for spending time with me and my audience. I had a privilege to have you on the coffee o'clock.
Yeah, it was great to be with you.
Thank you, Chris. Last cheers.
Yes, last cheers. Why not? There we go.